Good morning and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey. This morning I have with me Todd Chapman, and this is the first time we've gone live, like LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, I don't know, live in a couple of months. So we're changing up the format a little bit, having some fun. But I've got Todd Chapman with me here today. I'm Dave Westcott, CEO of Evergreen Brands, TransBlue, Condo Shield, and we just talk about all things entrepreneurial. And I've got Todd Chapman with me again. I've said his name 3 times. Todd Chapman with me 3 times. Who are you, Todd?
Todd Chapman, Vice President of Franchise Operations here at TransBlue, one of the brands here at Evergreen Brands, and just oversee working with our franchisees on the franchising side of the business and supporting them, talking about the strategy on the franchise company. So,
yeah.
And that's my background. I've had 13 years experience now in the franchise industry and counting. Sometimes we go 15, 20 years, just depending on the conversation, but 13 years now in franchising. So
13 years is the accurate count.
13 is the accurate count. 2009 was the first year.
That's exciting.
It is, yeah.
And you're still doing it.
I am still doing it.
So you're kind of like a glutton for punishment.
That's right. That's right. No, it's been fun, and it's funny because you come off of Christmas, right? We just celebrated Christmas, with the family, and my son, he's a New Year's Eve baby, and so you kind of track him, right? He's going to be 11 here later this week, and you wake up in the morning, you have the fun with the kids, and you always get to see that. And we have 4 kids, my wife and I. Shout out to my wife because she's amazing. But it's fun because you realize when thinking about 13 years in franchising, my wife and I got married the same year I got into franchising, and so it's kind of that pulse, right? You kind of look at the journey and you look at your kids and kind of how your professional journey goes, and it's been fun to kind of see the growth.
So do you have an FDD for the family or what?
Yeah. I'm developing my own FDD.
This is what values. You can't do.
Yeah, this is the compliance. I do have compliance with the kids.
There you go.
Go there, but yeah.
So you spoke about values. Values are important in franchising.
It's very valuable. Yep, very important.
And values are something that it's going to be a touchy subject for some, right?
It will.
It can be something that turns people off, turns people on, but it really enables you to build your own brand of crazy. And I'm a huge believer in values, but first I like to start with the Christian values, because to me that's what's number one. If you look at our wall, our business, it's God, family, then business. And in franchising, I believe those roots, those pillars, those are the things that enable you to be successful. What have you seen? You've been with a couple of different brands. You've been with OxyFresh, right? Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
You've been
Not
with
OxyClean, OxyFresh.
OxyFresh, out of Colorado. And you've been with U.S. Lawns out of Florida. And now you've done a little bit of time at TransBlue.
Yep.
Values. What do values mean to you? What is the importance of values in a franchise system?
Yeah, great question. And I think it all comes back to values, right?
Yeah.
I think when you think of franchising, I think people you're looking for an opportunity. So, I think of the people that are out there searching for the right franchise, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going online. They're looking for a different path. Maybe they're coming out of the military. We have a lot of veterans in our system right now, and I've worked with some in the past, and so they're getting out. They're kind of thinking about the future. Where am I going to go? And then you also have those maybe in the corporate world, right? They're kind of in the rat race. They're trying to figure that out, and they want to have something new to look forward to. And especially this time of year, as you're coming into a new year, you're reviewing what's going on and kind of looking at the past year. Where am I? Am I meeting my goals, my life goals, and then looking for an opportunity. And what's interesting with that is you start doing some research online, you start looking at some brands, and there's thousands of franchises out there, right? There's thousands of opportunities, and there's a lot of directions to go, and there's a lot of ways to get across the finish line. And I think what really sustains people, I think what really keeps them moving and really motivated is values. And I think that's not only with a franchise, right?
Yeah.
Or a franchisee coming into a system for long-term sustainability. I also think for employees of a company, and I think not only for the franchisor and the franchise company, but also the franchisees, employees that are coming on board. Do I believe in the mission? Do I believe in the values? And these are words that get thrown around a lot, right? Mission, values. But I do think it's important. And in my journey, and part of the story, of why I came on board TransBlue had to do with values.
Yeah.
And it was no offense to U.S. Lawns or the companies I've worked for in the past, but it was about alignment. And I remember you and I were having a conversation. You and I got to know each other because of franchising, and you're researching franchising when I was at U.S. Lawns. And it was interesting because I remember asking you a question. It's one of my favorite stories because I remember, you ask people about, I've talked to a lot of people about coming on board, and you always ask them, hey, what's the vision? What's the long-term goals of the company? What are you looking to do? And I remember exactly where I was in Florida in our guest room and looking out the window and to our backyard, and I asked you that question. I said, Dave, what is the vision for the company? Where are you looking to take it? What's it represent? And you said, I want to have $100 million a year towards philanthropic and charitable work. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm prepared for, X amount of franchises, this much revenue goals, and those are important things in business. But I remember just stopping, going, well, first of all, that's crazy. That's nuts. This guy's nuts. And then the other side of it was, I just was.
I take rejection well.
Yes, I was floored because I said, man, how cool is that? Because how many times we've sat there and I kind of was in a position where it's like, man, I was good where I was and appreciated where I was, but the bottom line, I didn't really quite align with the company values that were part of where I was, and it was no offense to what I believe, great company, but it was like, man, at the end of the day, like what's going to drive you? What's going to wake you up in the morning to be excited about where you're going? And that mission of God, family, business, for us to change the world and to really align ourselves and my Christian values and my faith-based values really, really aligned. And I think in franchising that same way that I align with that, a candidate can align with that as well.
Yeah.
And want to be like, hey, this is something I'm passionate about, I really believe in, and I want to join that mission. I want to join that goal of this company, and I can see myself and my family that align with it. So I think that's so important. I think it does always come back to values because we all want to make money. We all want to be successful in business. At the end of the day, though, do I find purpose? Is there a sense of purpose in what I'm doing, and am I really impacting others, and I think, if you have the values and you can bring people rally around the troops, like what's the common cause that we're all rallying around? And
it's powerful, right?
And it is, and I think that's what it comes back to. And we won't have, enough time probably to share all the stories, with the nonprofit side of the business that we align with and how we've done that even over the past years, we review it, but just hearing the stories at our company party of some of the amazing
stuff we've
goals
done,
and just missions out there, and just the people that are all over the world, from Ukraine to Uganda to Nepal. I mean, and even locally, especially too. But it's just cool, and it gives you like, man, it's just a pride because money can come and go, but what's the legacy? What's the long-lasting impact that we're trying to make and make the world a better place? And I see that.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge, right?
Yeah, it is.
And that vision of getting 100 million a year into the kingdom, like that, getting that in and going where God's not, and it's funny because we got a little map on this side. You can't see it on the screen, but we've got this little map, and as you're telling that story, I'm kind of looking at this map and I'm thinking, yeah, Nepal, yeah, Uganda, all of these different places that we've been able to affect around the world. And like you start putting that pin in the map and it's like, oh wow, we've been there. Oh yeah, and we've been there, and we've been to the Ukraine, and we've been to Russia, and we've been to a lot of different places. And so that, I think that's a really powerful thing. And listen, the goal is crazy, but I think I think Steve Jobs created a commercial one time back in the 80s, I think, and it was like, it was dedicated to the crazy ones, right? Mm-hmm. The crazy ones changed the world, and I think that's our goal, right? That's our alignment. But even in franchising, that alignment, I think, is so important, right? Because franchising is just an extension of the TransBlue name, and I think, if a franchisee comes into this system or is a part of this system, but those values don't align, then they're not going to live out who TransBlue is as a company.
Yeah.
Right? And so,
that's right.
like, that's really important. And my next kind of just prompt was, should the values of the business align with you personally? Like, should you go home and say, man, I align with these values? And you kind of answered that question before we even got to it, where you said, yeah, they did align, and these are the things that, were important to me, and I was comfortable at the place I was working, and I had no reason to change. But mission and purpose was important to me. It was something that I could grasp onto and something that I could hold on to, because at the end of the day, is it just going to work every day? We go to work more than we do anything. We work and sleep,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Those are the two predominant factors in life. And so I know that when I sleep, I usually have a good time. The nightmares are very few and far between. So I can always look forward to that. And going to work is always an important thing too, right? So you want to feel like you're really doing something good at work, and I think that makes the work better. That makes the day go by better. But it's also great to, work with people and to work with franchisees who have those same values, right?
Yeah.
It's an awesome thing. Like, we just had a quick little prayer session before we came down here, right? Our team little prayer, 8:45, Monday through Friday. Hey, pop on in the room, say a few prayers, what's going on, and it's that common place where, what are we doing, what are we building, and are we building a business where we love to be around people who are like-minded?
Yeah.
Because you feel comfortable when you're around like-minded people.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
You feel good about yourself around like-minded people. And like-minded people seem to work harder for each other.
They do. Yeah. I think any of the strongest teams, and I'm this, and you are too, a former athlete, and just a big part of sports and our lives. And I think the strongest teams that I've ever been a part of, and I think of one team in particular. When I was at a small school called Colorado Christian, and we were a good basketball team. And our first year we did okay. We were about a 500 team, and we had some ups and downs. But the second year we came in the next year, and there was a couple pieces of the puzzle that just kind of seemed like there was a little bit of division, a little bit of just not as cohesive. And that next year though, I just felt like our group was so tight. We just really were for each other. And I think these 5 o'clock morning practices and all this grinding that you do. We wanted to do it for each other, and I think that really the result of that was a very successful team. I think we started the year like 19-1, or top 10 in the country, and I mean, just because I think it was just a different dynamic, and I think it was our mission was very clear, and we really lived that out, and so kind of aligning that with business, I think it's super important, because I think I just love that we do have the prayer sessions. I don't see that in a lot of companies, and I think the thing that not the danger per se, but you see a lot of values, you see a lot of missions and with statements and vision statements for companies, but I think it's also living it out, and that's one thing I love here is we talk about our core values a lot. We talk about the values of the company often, and it's not just some fancy words on a wall, which it's great to have, but to be reminded. But I think it's living it out, and just an example is hey, God, family, business, but we try to start the day off with prayer, right? We try to give the glory to God and give that first focus. And so it's not just about having the fancy words, it's how do we live it out, and not say we're perfect by any means. We have failures like anybody, but I think it's, again, just that goes back to the focus of our alignment and the values of the company, which
I agree. I was looking for a little text message that I figured I'd just share because it aligns, and this is from one of our guys in New Jersey, because we are a national organization, and it's kind of cool because this text message comes in and he says, "Gents, Merry Christmas to you and your families. I look forward to a tremendous new year together, one that further grows our brand and reputation. It means something to me when our efforts in business contribute toward giving back to those who are in need. I take pride in that. God bless you guys and have an awesome day." Now, I love that because, it's, you get a lot of the Merry Christmas text or the Merry Christmas email or the follow through. But when you have a team member, especially one who's not at HQ, not at headquarters, right? One who's in a remote office, satellite office, right? And they're saying, hey, it means something to me when our efforts in business contribute towards giving back to those who are in need. That means consciously, even on Christmas, that person is thinking, man, look at what we're doing to the world. Look at what we're changing in the world. Look at what we're doing to make the world a better place. And they can say, I take pride in that. And that's a cool
awesome
sense of connection, right? That's a cool sense of belonging. Like, not only are we changing the world here at the HQ office, because you mentioned something where you said, it's not just fancy words on the wall. We talk about it. We work to live it. Are we perfect? No. Do we make mistakes? Yes, all the time. But at the end of the day, how do you show up to those mistakes? How do you show up to those misses, you know? And you think even the largest Fortune 500 companies in the world, look at the mistakes that get made. Look at the apologies that CEOs make on social media or they make on TV, right, for mistakes that happen within a company. Look at what just happened with FedEx, right? So, I mean, you know, you think about what happens to businesses and with people because, you know, life can be messy, but life is a beautiful thing. And when we work towards that common purpose, when we work towards that common goal, it's really powerful. What I love is to work with a franchisee. I love franchising. I love franchising because what I've found in my years of being in business, 19 years in business, 26 years in the industry, what I find is that business is tough. And what I love about franchising is that you open the door. You open the door to a system. And you think about it and the calmness that you have, or the calmness that you have in making a decision, or the ability to quickly read and react to a situation, know what's coming down the pike before it's going to happen. Right? How many times do you sit on a call with a franchisee and say, well, if this move you make, this is what's going to happen.
Right.
And sometimes they'll be like, nah, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And then they'll make the move and then it happens. And then they come back and say, how did you know that was going to happen? How can you predict the future? Well, it's normally very expensive. And what I mean by that is those lessons, that experience has come at a significant cost. And the cool thing about franchising is you have someone that comes alongside you and says, hey, I've been here. This has been my experience. And when the values align, it's another bridge of trust. But I think it's the most powerful bridge of trust, right? Because our values are aligning. When our values are aligning, we're not sharing out of manipulation, or we're not sharing out of financial gain. We're saying, hey, look at this is where we are from a value standpoint. This is what we believe in. Our hearts and our minds are aligned in business. And we're sharing these best practices with you to help you succeed so that we could succeed at our mission. The goal of 100 million a year into the kingdom, like that's a huge goal. Todd said it was crazy, and then he said I was crazy.
I did.
And so,
and it is.
You know, at the end of the day, like hitting that goal alone may be completely unachievable. But hitting that goal with a network of amazing franchise owners who are all pulling in the same direction makes the goal a lot more obtainable.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about franchising. How many men and women around the United States want to push towards that same goal of changing the globe?
Mm-hmm. And I think it's, you touched on it, is, I mean, not saying that anything's impossible, but I think it's much more difficult. Getting to that 100 million is just us. Mm-hmm. And just, you know, and I think the part of the vision for you is alignment with other business owners, right? To join in that cause and to join in that in that mission, and I think that's the easier path to get there, you know. And that goes back to the alignment. You know, if I believe in that, I want to help be a part of that,
right,
and help my team be a part of that. To get there. So I think it's, you know, I think that's where the alignment comes back to is, you know, again, if we're going to accomplish this amazing, crazy goal, it's going to have to come alongside others that are part of that. And then you mentioned, I mean, it's that, just like that easier path to 100 million, I think it's an easier path for franchisees. Not to say that business still isn't hard and there's not tough times that are going to happen. I think in any franchise, any business, that's going to be the case. But to your point is, how many of those failures or challenges have you met along the time, right, and the path of your journey, that we can share? And that's part of that model. That's part of that support that people are coming alongside to hopefully help limit their risk, limit that failure, because you've been there and done that. Now, you know, shout out to the franchises. It's about taking that, following it, listening to it, like you said. I mean, right, people still, you know, whether it's their own personality or they think they know it's best or whatever, they still may want to go astray, right? Here's the GPS, if you will, that we want to build for you. You got to drive the car and drive it and keep it on the road, you know.
That's
because
right.
There's a lot of shortcuts that look like it's going to be easier, shiny objects and things that'll
And shortcuts are a killer.
And it comes back. I mean, how many times, I mean, even look at a sales process or any operational process, we talk about it, you know, the details matter. I mean, that's part of our system, and where we are is the details, right? It's part of our value system. And they always come back. You know, it's like in the moment, it's like, no, this is easier. Let's just take this little path, and we don't need to do this document or, you know, this job handoff or whatever that tool is. And it always comes back. And how many times you hear, man, I should have done that. And that's exactly that's why we had this little failure. And it might be a small one, but how many of those little ones can add up? And so I think that's part of that strategy and plan, and make sure they're executing and following through with that. But it still comes back to what's the purpose of why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's why values are so important.
Values are many hands make light work.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
Many hands together make the work so much easier. It's funny because I was getting this house ready for Airbnb. By the way, a pipe burst in it over the weekend, and it's a freaking disaster. So my life is in shambles at the moment.
Life is messy.
But it was, you know, I was going down to Texas, and I had to get all this furniture moved in and all this furniture purchased, and I doing all these things, and I'm thinking about Jack Daly, Live Your Best 168, and I'm thinking, would Jack be out here moving furniture? I'm like, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't be moving furniture. But Jack and I are in different levels, so, you know, we're doing different things. And but I'm in there, and I'm involved, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, you know, there's a lot to do here. And so, you know, what do? We've got some helpers that are coming to help set everything up. And, you know, the helpers come in, and there's a team of 4 or 5 of them. I can't remember exactly. And basically they help you set up your home, you know, and you're thinking, and it's like, okay, you know, you're carrying the mattresses in from the truck to the house, and you're carrying in the dressers, and they're heavy, and, you know, you're setting all this up, and you're putting it all in, and everything's, you know, happening that way. And then, you know, you're like, man, how am I going to get all this done? I've only got 2 days to build it and assemble an entire house. And then these workers come in, and it's like, they don't even really talk to you. They just kind of know what to do. And they're just stripping boxes down, throwing them down, loading up the truck with boxes. They're taking furniture. They're moving it all over here. And I'm serious. It was like a swarm of bees or a swarm of ants, not in a degrading way, but just in like an amazing way, like how they just came in and set all these little spaces up, right? And it was like, wow, that was awesome. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Right? So true. How do you tackle a problem? Well, you know, you make sure you have great delegation. You make sure that you have a great plan. You make sure that you can execute the plan. But do those people want to get that work done if there's no values? Are those people doing their work cheerfully without any values? Or is it just another job? When there's an emergency and they have to stay late, or they have to work extra hard, or what are the things that help get them through that? And you hear it continually, like, oh man, the values of our team, man, it means so much to me. Not just in this company, TransBlue, but in other companies. And you see it on LinkedIn too, right? Where, you know, companies have a similar mind in place. And, you know, we're snow fighters, right? So we plow snow all over the United States. It's a big thing, right? And, you know, what does it mean to, you know, work on Christmas? How many crews were out there working on Christmas?
A lot.
You know, and what were they working for? Well, you know, you see a lot of posts online that say, hey, I was out there working hard, keeping the streets clean. My people are working on Christmas so that you can get where you're going. We're first responders in the snow. And those people are doing it because they believe in the company, because the company sets up good values, because the company takes care of their team, right? They also do it because they get paid. I don't want to forget that piece of it too, right?
That is part
right,
of it.
Right. That's a portion of why we go to work. That's right. That's right. You got to get the presents, and you got to pay your rent, and you got to buy a new car, and you got to put food on the table, which is extremely expensive, by the way. Yeah. You know, the cost of everything is just through the roof. I'm glad that gas is down to like $3 or something a gallon. So that's kind of nice. We got some relief there. But the purpose is like, how do we align as a team? And what we can do with 1 or 2 of us can seem daunting. But what we can accomplish with many hands is so powerful. And that's what I love about building a team. That's what I love about having a team that's aligned in the same direction. That's what I love about the power of franchising, is that you can work together, and it doesn't matter if you've got a guy in Seattle and a guy in Boston and a guy in Colorado and a guy in Atlanta. Like, we can move forward in the same direction. And what's happening in Atlanta, or what's happening in North Carolina, or what's happening in other parts of the country is we're just chipping away at it a little bit of a time. Little bite at a time, little bite at a time. And all of a sudden, those little bites, it turns into, whoa, look at all that progress we made.
Yep.
And that's what I love about the power of franchising. That's what I love about the power of the network. Not only do we get to invest and make friends with some amazing people, we get to meet some incredibly intelligent individuals. We get to meet some amazing hard workers. We get to meet some really bright people. We have a lot of fun in this process. But you look at what we're accomplishing, and it's like, you might see one franchisee, he really surging forward. He's taking big chunks. Then you might see a steady Eddie, man. He's just chipping away a little bit at a time, but you see his growth.
Yep.
And it's like, wow, that was awesome. And so it's very, very rewarding. And when we're all moving forward with the same mindset and all moving forward with the same goal, it's something that we can all be proud of system-wide. And that's what I love about the system that we're building.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's a great, a great point. And I think, just many members along the way to accomplish the greater good, the greater goal, and I think that's the power of franchises, right? We start with several franchises, those flag bearers, right? Who are going to be those flag bearers out there that are going to just be those early, they call it early adopters, right? Brand adopters.
Yep.
And I think, so that, where our stage is as a franchise company, and in looking and reflecting back kind of where we started with the 13 years, I look back in my time at OxyFresh, and shout out to Jonathan Barnett, the founder of that company. He was my teammate and roommate in college, and just seeing how, his entrepreneur mind and his brilliant mind of just getting it going. And those early stages, I kind of came on right after they started the company, and they were kind of emerging, and then going to the larger company of US Lawns, who'd been established for decades and were very mature, and the brand had hundreds of franchisees. And then now coming to TransBlue is that true emerging brand, right? Those first franchisees. And I think it's going to be cool to reflect on, where we're going to want to go with the brand, because it's really establishing those values and that foundation. And I think we've laid that. Now it's about those early franchisees taking it and getting it to the many members, many
That's
goals.
right.
And so if the purpose and that it doesn't have that true vision and mission that you align with, I think it's going to be more difficult, and I think that's where I love where we are right now, is because we have that common value system. And
we build our own brand of crazy.
And you attract that, I think,
That's right.
and if you're passionate about it. So it's exciting, to see kind of where we are, and reflecting as the end of the year, you kind of look back in the year and look into the next year with anticipation, like, hey, what's going on? It's kind of like my kids, on Christmas Eve, trying to get them in the bed, because they're just so excited. It's funny how, like, man, you can get them to bed pretty quick on Christmas Eve, like, hey, we got to open presents, and depending on where we are, belief in Santa, my olders maybe don't, but my youngers do, and it's like, okay, Santa's may pass our house if you're not asleep, and it's like, man, how quickly they get in those beds, or they brushing their teeth, and they're ready to roll, So we always look forward to Christmas Eve, but that anticipation with what's next, and so just excited to see coming in 2023, where we're going to be, but like I said, it comes back to keeping the first things first, and that's God.
Yeah, that's so true. I love that
exciting.
Childlike faith.
It is,
right?
It is.
I was at the mall over the weekend because I'm a last minute shopper. So I was doing all my shopping on Saturday, all of it, and we were going through the mall, and we saw my kids happened to spot Santa. Right? They just see this little red coat whisk by, and they're like, "There's Santa." I'm like, "No," and they're like, "Yeah, let's follow him." I was like, "Okay." So they dip. He's going down escalators. They're going down escalators. They don't see him. They're looking around. They're like, where'd he go? They spot him. They jet down. We go down another escalator. We're tracking on Santa. And, they get around the corner and they see Santa. And they're like, Santa, I want to tell you what I want for Christmas. And they listen, and they whisper it in his ear, you know what I mean? And I'm like, what'd you tell Santa you wanted? An art kit. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. My daughter ended up getting 3 art kits because she was telling everybody she wanted an art kit. So everywhere she went, somebody got her an art kit. So now she's carrying around all these art kits. You know, Dave said he wanted Legos, right? He was telling everybody Legos. So what was happening? Like everywhere he went, somebody gave him a Lego set. You know, he's got more Legos than he knows what to do with right now. You know, but what is that? That's just that blind faith, right? That just blind belief, that blind believing that, hey, it's going to work out and it's going to be okay. And I love that. I love that about Christmas. I never want it to get lost that it's Christ's birth, and that's the real meaning for the season. And it's not about presents and trees. It's it's about the birth of Christ, and that's so important for us as a company, for me as a leader, to stay focused and to push through and to be generous, right? To be that generous business, to be that business that gives back, and that's where that value aligns. And if you really look at it, it's one simple word that really aligns everything that we do. And it's love, right? We want to do everything from a place of love. That's what it's all about here at TransBlue General Contractors, at Evergreen Brands, at Condo Shield, at the brands that we build. It's all about love. And our core values, they actually stem from love, right? And so you think about what we do in the world, it's all love. We're working to change the world out of love for the world because he first loved us. And so that's the powerful belief. So the challenge to you, listening out here, participating, seeing what's going on is, listen, find something that you love in your business. Find something passionate. It doesn't have to be 100 different places across the globe. It can be as simple as the Boys and Girls Club, or a Dawson Place, which helps sexually abused kids, or a New Heart Foundation that helps men and women with life-controlling substance abuse issues. Find something, substance abuse issues. I said that a little fast, but find something, right, that you can latch onto and that your team can invest in and your business can invest in, and make that difference. Make that difference in the community. Make that difference in the world. Other than that, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from me. Any last words from you, Todd?
Just find your passion, live it out, and go after it. I think that's
and align it to the values,
and align it back to what matters to you and your values. So,
I'm Dave Westcott. Follow me on LinkedIn. Follow me on Facebook. This is Todd Chapman. Follow him on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. It was great seeing you. We'll see you back next week. Have an awesome, wonderful, Happy New Year, because next time we chat, it'll be 2023.
It's amazing. Happy New Year, guys.
It's amazing. Happy New Year.